Well, I'm Andrew Broad. I'm the President of the Victorian Farmers Federation. I'm also on the board of the National Farmers Federation. I'm on the board of Australian Made, Australian Grown, and probably my greater claim to fame, I'm the proud owner of a Brumby 610 high wing aircraft. Look, one of the reasons that I was attracted to this aircraft was, firstly, I'm very pro-Australian. I like to see Australian products, and I think it's a fantastic story that we've got an Australian company in a country town building what I would think are some of the best quality aircrafts to be found anywhere in the world. They're very well suited to what farmers will use and what country people will use. They're a very strong aircraft. They're a chrome moly chassis, a full aluminium build. I've got a strip at my place that's 600 metres, dirt strip, and it's got a steel undercarriage and can land on that, and stands up to it very well. Our aircraft's got the Rotex 912 ULS engine, 100 horsepower. They're a very efficient engine to run, and we find with this aircraft at 5,200 revs, it'll cruise along at about anywhere between 105 and 110 knots quite comfortably. And that's a realistic, that's not trying to tell people fancy figures to get them to buy an aircraft. One of the things that I've seen with aviation is that it's always convincing your wife whether, say, she could come in the aircraft. My wife is a reluctant flyer, but in this aircraft she feels very safe, she feels very solid. It's a very roomy aircraft inside, and it sits in the air very well. My father is a pilot who's flown sort of Cessnas and Pipers through the 70s and 80s, and I've got to say he was a bit nervous about me buying a light sport aircraft. He was very apprehensive that it would sit in the air anywhere near as well as what he had flown in the 70s and 80s. But he was quite surprised. The stability of the aircraft in the air is good. We've flown through some rough conditions, and really it's as good as you'll see with an aircraft that's heavier. The flight characteristics of the aircraft are one of the things that I'm very impressed with. If you put it into a stall, it'll stall at about 37 knots. You pull the stick right back, pull the throttle right back, and even then it won't drop a wing. It'll only descend at about 500 feet per minute. And I think that's a good safety feature because unlike a lot of other aircraft, if you were to stall it, I suspect, on base, there's a fair chance that you'll be able to recover from this aircraft and get your airspeed up. And I think that's good. We've got the 3-blade Bolly prop. It's a ground adjustable prop. We've got it set reasonably coarse because we've got the aircraft for a touring aircraft. We see that climb performance is about 500 to 600 feet per minute. We don't try and climb up too steep, but I think for a flying school you'd probably fine that up a little bit and you'd get your 1,000 feet per minute quite comfortably. One of the things that's attractive to me as an aviator is certainly travelling between airports now. It's getting less and less likely that airports have got fuel. The Brumbies have got very good tank capacity. They carry a good load of fuel, and I think that's a big help, particularly as we've got to fight the fight and put out the good word to retain our airstrips in our regional towns and retain fuel depots. The Brumby is a reasonably comfortable plane. It's quite roomy to sit in. It's got plenty of space around it. The seats are a leather finish, they're a good finish. We've got a fairly basic dash put in ours, but you can of course get your glass cockpits if you want to go that way, and it all depends how much you want to pay. I think what's been interesting with the move into recreational aviation is that a lot of people are moving out of GA because of the expense of it into RAA. And I think one of the things that's unique about these aircraft is they've very much got a GA feel. They've got the toe brakes as standard, and also now they're putting the Lycoming engine in them. And although there's not one flying with the Lycoming at the time of doing this filming, it'll be very interesting to see how that aircraft performs. It'll be more horsepower. But certainly if you're someone that is used to a GA feel, wants a robust, solid aircraft, this is an aircraft you should consider. So here we are looking at the cockpit of the aircraft, and you can have a variety of dashes. But this has got the glass cockpit as well as some standard round instruments. It's got a very much a GA trim wheel, which I think most aircraft people will be very happy with, very easy to adjust. It's got good solid runners on a seat, so the adjustable seats, and you'll see if you look at the edging on the doors, they're very well finished, they seal very well. which is important if you're going through cold conditions. My wife is a bit of a cold frog, and this comes with cabin heat and carby heat standard, which isn't always standard on the 912 ULS in a lot of other aircraft. For a lot of people who own aircraft now, they haven't always got the luxury of having a hangar to put it in, and being a full aluminium build aircraft, they can sit outside, although that's never ideal. But one of the things that's good about this is the high-rise fuel cap. If they are sitting outside or they are in the rain, you're not going to get water in them with your fuel, and that's a very important characteristic for safety. The Brumby 610 high wing has electric flaps, which is very good. They've got very good stability when they're at full flap, and if you are landing on dirt strips, you can pull up the aircraft very quick because that puts a lot of drag on. The other advantage of these flaps is that at 80 knots you can start to run them down, which is a bit more like a robust GA aircraft rather than some of the light planes that we see in the marketplace today that really have got to be going very slow before you can put the flaps down. On the Brumby aircraft I own, we have a cast-ring nose wheel and toe brakes, so you can do the steering with the toe brakes. It doesn't take very long to get used to doing that. You can have a choice of tyres depending on whether you're landing on bitumen strips or whether you're landing on dirt strips. But the thing that I'm very impressed about, if you have a look at these undercarriage, it's spring steel, it's bolted into the main chassis, and if you compare that to, say, some of the other aircraft, what I'd say to people before they get an aircraft and they're going to buy an aircraft, get underneath and have a look how it's mounted to the chassis, because a lot of aircraft, this leg here is only pop riveted in, and in this aircraft this has got some good heavy high tensile bolts. The Brumby 610 high wing can have a choice of props. One of the ones that, the prop that's on my plane is the Bolly 3-blade carbon fibre prop. They're a very light prop if you actually handle them, but also very strong. They should get a lot of life, and they're very robust. The advantage of the 3 prop is, of course, it's a little bit shorter, which is ideal for bush airstrips. We have ours coursed out fairly well because we want to get cruise performance. But if you were a flying school, you might have it a little bit finer for more touch and goes and takeoffs and landings. The Brumby 610 high wing has got a larger tail than the low wing. It's 20% higher, adds a lot more stability in the air, and you'll find this aircraft, if it's set up right, in good conditions, once you trim it out, you can sit there and listen to your iPod because there will be no steering to do, it'll just sit there and fly.